Oh man, whew. So you just had a motorcycle crash. That's not good news, but it does happen to the best of us. You've probably got 1,000 things going through your mind right now, but today we're gonna be taking a look at everything you need to know after your motorcycle crash so that you can get back on the road. Now, in most places, carrying insurance is a requirement, but even if it's not, it's usually cheaper to have insurance than it is to run without it. So if you click the link down below, check out Progressive Insurance to get yourself a quote. They're a proud sponsor of today's video, and we actually use them for all the bikes in the shop. All of the giveaway bikes, all my personal bikes are insured by Progressive, and even Spite and his car and his personal bikes are insured as well. But we'll talk a little bit more about insurance later on. Let's check out what's the first thing that happens after you crash. All right, guys, nobody wants to think about crashing on a motorcycle. It's a scary prospect that can lead to some serious injury or lifelong consequences if you're not careful. But the important thing you want to think about is how to limit the ordeal as much as possible. And one way you can do that is limiting the cost of the ordeal. Now, in today's video, we're going to be covering from the moment you crash all the way to the moment in which you are actually back on the road and ready to ride. And the most important thing you can do for this is carrying insurance.
Now, once you're up off the ground, the first thing you need to do is take stock. And I'm not talking about the motorcycle, I'm talking about yourself. Do you have any injuries? Do you need to call an ambulance? Can you even walk away from the accident? Another thing that you need to do is you need to make sure that you can control that fight or flight response. You're going to have adrenaline pumping in your veins. It's going to be in your ears. You're probably going to be in shock. So the most important thing is you just take a second and breathe.
If you're physically unable to ride, call yourself an ambulance and get over to the hospital. If you can ride your motorcycle, it's time to start assessing the damage. Lift it up like so. Then roll it over to the side of the road and let's start looking at your T.C.L.O.C.S. Tires, do they hold air? Are there any punctures? Are your wheels bent? And do they actually roll smooth? Next up is controls. Are your handlebars straight? Do all your levers work? Do your brakes work? And most importantly, does your throttle still open and close? L stands for lights and electronics. You're gonna wanna make sure when you turn the key that your lights still turn on, your electrical system still turns over, your brake lights turn on, and your mirrors are still in place. O is gonna be for oil and fluids, and all that means is your bike actually holding all of the life juice it needs to keep running? Now, C is gonna be for chassis and frame. You're gonna wanna make sure there's no cracks in the frame, no bends in the frame. You're gonna wanna make sure your suspension components still do the suspension thing that they do, and you're gonna wanna make sure that your final drive is still supplying power to your wheel. Your final check on your T.C.L.O.C.S is looking at your stand and making sure it can still stand your motorcycle up on its side. Now, if all those are pretty good, you're probably okay to ride your motorcycle for a short distance back home. If anything's up with it and it's gonna take a little bit longer for you to get back home, you should probably get your bike towed to your local mechanic or your dealership and then get ready to start keeping the receipts, but more on that later. Now, one final note as well is that if you hit another vehicle or another vehicle hit you, or if you damaged anyone else's property, it's gonna be important that you also assess that damage and exchange information with the property owners if they are there on site. Also, take as many pictures as you can. The more the better.
Now, if your bike went for a slide on the asphalt, you did damage to your motorcycle. There's no getting around that. Now that you have your motorcycle back in a shop, with nice lights, it's time to start taking stock of the damage. Plastics, levers, and shiny parts are really easy for you to clock, but remember that you might have some deeper damage under the skin that you don't really know how much it's gonna take to fix. Sometimes it's easier to just take it to a shop and have them do all the work. Remember how we said it was easier just to get it towed away straight to a mechanic shop? That way you don't have some unrideable hunk of garbage slowly rotting away in your own garage. And by the way, it's literally somebody else's job to fix this thing. It's what mechanics are paid for. Now remember, when a lot of dealerships get broken motorcycles, they actually have people that work directly with insurance companies on your behalf, and all you have to do is sign and approve repairs. It's super duper easy. When I recovered my Harley after it was stolen, I just took it off to an HD dealership and they worked directly with Progressive to approve all of the stuff, and I just came back to pick up the keys when it was done.
Now, another thing to consider as well are any mods you had on your motorcycle or gear you were wearing at the time of your accident. So let's say you've got something like this DRZ here and it's kind of crusty, but you've got a bunch of choice mods like this exhaust or some aftermarket wheels, or let's say you're wearing the absolute latest Dainese or Arai gear. Now, under Progressive's accessories policy, you can get reimbursed for those items if you have the receipts or the links to them. So that's why we said to keep those receipts or have those links handy so that you can get reimbursed.
Now let's assume that you got yourself all busted up in this wreck and needed to go to the hospital. Well, chances are you have your own medical insurance through your job, but you probably should be carrying medical insurance on your motorcycle policy as well, just in case. That's the sort of thing that covers ambulance rides, if you need to spend a night in the hospital, or maybe you had a passenger or hurt somebody else. Also, chances are you're going to be dealing with these expenses after the fact, so make sure that you're keeping all of these bills to give them to your insurance company later on.
So now that you're getting yourself patched up and your bike is under the knife, it's time to figure out who was at fault. Now, fault is really important because it's going to determine whose insurance policy is going to be utilized. Now, more often than not, motorcycles are actually just single vehicle accidents, usually someone on a back road, they have a low side and they fall, and fault is pretty easy to determine in that way. You were at fault because you were by yourself and your insurance is going to be used. Now, if another vehicle was involved in this accident, it can get a little bit more complicated. Now, both insurance companies are going to require a statement from you about what happened in the incident. If it was cut and dry and you were at fault, all you're going to need to do is talk to your insurance company and then we'll get with the other driver and coordinate everything and get them sorted. Now, if you believe the other driver to be at fault, you can speak to your insurance company or just go direct to their insurance company and get it sorted. Regardless of who is at fault, both drivers are going to be required to make a statement to both insurance companies about what happened. That's why it's so important to have lots of photos from the incident so you can keep your memory fresh and you can have a proof of what actually happened. It's better to have video as well if you can manage it.
Now let's assume that you do not own your motorcycle. A lot of people need to finance a bike nowadays, and in that case, the check will not go to you. It'll go to the bank that holds your loan. If the loan amount is less than the cash value of your motorcycle, you will receive a refund from your bank for that amount. If you owe more on the bike than the bike is worth, well, then buddy, be ready to use your gear credit or continue making those monthly payments.
Now, spite that is unless you got gap coverage. Now, gap coverage is something you can get when you buy your motorcycle that's designed to help you in this specific case. In the case of your loan being more than the total value of the check that you got from the insurance. So that's gonna help cover your butt in those cases. Now, also, if you're financing a motorcycle and the finance value is less than the total cash value of the bike, you should definitely skip the gap coverage because you really don't need it.
Alrighty, so now you're getting better, you're all fixed up, your bike's fixed up, or maybe it was totaled out, but all the bills are paid. What happens next? You'll likely get yourself a call from your insurance rep who's handling your case to let you know that they've closed it out. Once that happens, you'll be free and clear. An at-fault accident will stay on your record for a little while, but otherwise it'll be as if it never happened. It's time for you to run out, get yourself a new motorcycle, some new gear, or whatever else you want, and get back out on the road.
All right, guys, I hope you learned something in today's video. Thanks again for Progressive for sponsoring the video. Remember, click the link down below and get yourself a quote to see if you can save some money on your motorcycle insurance. It's what we literally use for all the two-wheeled vehicles we have in our life, both personal and for business. Click the link down below and check that out. We hope that you never actually use the information that we provided you in today's video. We hope that you always keep it rubber side down and shiny side up. We'll catch you in the next one. See you later. So, I hate to break it to you, but this video is actually over. But if you hit this one right over here, you can keep watching your sweet Papa Yam doing some fun stuff. And if for nothing else, do it for Yammie-chan. Don't worry, I'll wait. I'll just wait, it's okay. Take your time.